and welcome to our screencast for Wednesday, March 18th. Our first screencast. So, before we begin with today's topic on composition and improvisation, I wanted to hit some highlights on our Canvas site, namely the online component. So, if you go to our homepage and you scroll down through the key course components at the bottom, you'll see MU8900 online. This will be the main page that we use to deliver items through this new distance learning format. So here we have, first there's an online snapshot, and if you look at the snapshot, that details what are the remaining course objectives and how, if at all, they have been revised. Due dates in some cases have changed, so be mindful of that. And then there's also a piece on class content discussion. There are links throughout the document, and I won't visit all of those at this time. I just want to make sure that you're aware of what is currently available and what is the kind of the main holding place from which we'll communicate. You'll notice also, actually this page is a work in progress, but I will load each of the screencasts and any presentation materials here on this particular page. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to try and be as quick as I can on the topic. I know you don't want to listen to a lengthy lecture presentation, so I'm going to go probably way too fast, and then know that all of these slides are available as a PDF. So go ahead and read the chapter if you haven't already, and then listen to this file. And after that, I'll ask that you participate in the discussion component, which is linked through Google Docs. All right, so a few quotes. These are some that I have shared with you in the recent past, but they're appropriate, especially for improvisation. Many say to begin by imitate and then assimilate before we innovate. I told you Clark Terry, who's one of my trumpet heroes, said practice is like going to the bank. You can't get nothing out unless you put something in. And also he was known for saying you can be hip, but you best not be too hip, because two hips makes an ass. So that's the great Clark Terry. Okay, I have several questions just for consideration. You might jot down some notes on this. You might do a little bit of journaling on some of these pieces, but consider a lot of the life activities that we do are already improvisatory or compositional in nature. So think about what are some of the analogs there with composing and improvising. We might find that there are several that really overlap because there are so many close connections between composition and improvisation processes. The authors use the term generative as a neutral term for being creative, and it kind of relieves some of the pressure, I think, from the whole idea of the creative genius. So a few more notes on processes, a quote from the book saying music notation is incomplete. Most of what we do with it is interpretive. We're so used to interpreting notation that we don't realize it doesn't necessarily show exactly what is taking place from a sound generative perspective. So after reading the chapter, you probably felt like you do a lot more musically generative things than maybe you realized. And so many of those are through the various processes that we engage with. We could jot a whole bunch of them down, but for the sake of being expeditious, let's keep on going. Have you performed pieces that involve unconventional notation? That would be another kind of creativity that composers in particular would maybe engage in. And then ask ourselves why our generative process is considered an ill-structured problem, and largely has to do with assessment and the subjectivity involved therein. How about impression management? If we look on page 132, the author suggests that a lot of creators, not only in music but in many domains, are hesitant to provide their own personal thoughts about, okay, what kind of processes they go through. And part of that is that they want to maintain this, just the whole thought of how it's really truly inspired and creative in nature. So there are a couple of different types of composers suggested, one being working types who tend to follow more systematic methods, and they would view the product as being the direct result of their own efforts. Then there are others, well, here, by the way, that's Brahms, who was suggested to be perhaps a working type. Others who are inspirational and are less conscious about the, the way that they work or their own uh, compositional processes, and that they feel that the ideas and solutions are more random or come from external sources, Tchaikovsky being one of the examples given by the authors. They offer a model of creative process, which could be, I think, a great value to all of us, beginning with a preparatory stage in which we gather the knowledge and the skills, and this could take years and years, depending on what it is that we're endeavoring. And then the incubation stage, upon where we're asking initial questions or seeking initial solutions to a musical problem. Then the illumination is where we tend to produce ideas and come up with solutions to the posed problems. And then the elaboration stage where we find acceptable solutions, and this is said to be the most lengthy and even the most perhaps important stage in the creative process. And then finally, verification is where we get some kind of third-party assessment. In an improvisation setting that's live, that tends to be more of a matter of instant gratification, whereas composers might not have as many opportunities for third-party assessments. Kind of like, okay, well, there's the premiere, and that would be one of the times where they get that particular verification piece. So what are some of the compositional strategies that you employ? What do you do when you're writing tunes? Do you begin with lyrics? Do you begin with a chord progression? Do you begin with melodies? I think these are interesting questions for all of us to pose. We probably all have different kinds of strategies that we use. Also, when improvising, what kind of plans and ideas do you employ? I often start with something very simple and an initial thought, and then hope to be able to build from there and then tell an improvisatory story. They suggest that composers, I already mentioned before, but have more opportunity for solitary elaboration, but fewer chances for verification. So how can we learn to be creative? It's not necessarily genetic. It requires great amount of mastery. They suggest that it takes 10 years for composers to be able to contribute something that's meaningful. And then deliberate practice and instruction would be necessary. We have to master existing knowledge prior to being innovative or generative, and develop our oral skills, which are so very important for improvisers and composers. The constant probability of success theory is one that is of interest with regard to composition, and having that basic idea that, you know, almost like you are what you are in terms of your generative potential, if you will. There is, of course, some variability to that notion. Kratis has a nice progression of improvisation found on page 143, beginning with exploration and ending in personal improvisation, and I encourage you to review those levels as an improvising musician and as a teacher. I think these can be of great value. Okay, just wrapping things up here before you take some more time to review the chapter and to read through the PDF file and then respond to the discussion post, if you would. Musician interview project has been, the due date's been extended to March 27th, so you're going to conduct those interviews if you haven't done so yet via video conference. Reader's Choice, April 1st, and the final project on April 15th. See Canvas for more details. All right, so after you have done this or listened to this, please do go to our discussion page, which you can find linked through Canvas. There's a discussion document right here from our online homepage. And you will see that there are instructions in that document, and there are basically two things for you to do. One is to provide an initial post that is discussion related, and 2 is to provide a response post. So if you look at for March 18th on composition and improvisation, please provide your discussion before Thursday, March 19th. Let's say by 5 p.m., sometime before the end of the day. And just type a running narrative. What did you find of interest regarding musical generative processes, and explain your interest. These should be, like 4 to 5 sentence discussion posts. And then respond one time to one of the discussion posts of your classmates. You can again read the details right here. Thank you again for listening. I will be in touch with you via video. I will continue to upload materials and keep you informed as we go. All right, good luck with everything. Stay safe and healthy, and have a great day.